Popcorn, have you always lived up here?
Been here all my life. I was born and raised on the backside of Ghost Town, Ghost Mountain, on the backside of it, on a place called Hemp Hill, better known as the ice hole of the world.
What was it like growing up around here?
Well, we lived way back on a mountain, name it's called Hemp Hill. It's right next to the Smoky Mountain National Park. And it used to be a one-lane gravel road. It was real rough getting in there. There wasn't a few cars up in there anyway. And if you had to go to town, most people probably didn't have a car. You'd have to catch a taxi on Saturday, like to go to town. People up in there went to town about once a week, and that was about it.
How did people survive up here?
Well, most of them had a little small farm, like they raised tobacco and corn and taters and stuff like that and sold it. And the chickens and a hog, and had a milk cow and a horse they plowed with, or a mule or whatever.
Do you remember your grandparents?
Yeah, very well.
What were they like?
My grandma, her name on my daddy's side was Lysenia Burgess Sutton. She is from Walhalla, South Carolina. And my granddaddy, he was born and raised there on Hemp Hill. And they used to live in a place when my daddy was born called the Sugar Cove, which is just over the hill from Hemp Hill. He moved from the Sugar Cove to the main part of Hemp Hill in 1927. They moved over on a horse and a sled, what little stuff they had.
What did your grandparents do for a living?
Well, Granddaddy, he was a cook in these lumber camps they used to have around through here. And he also made moonshine liquor just like I do. If it hadn't been for moonshine liquor, a lot of folks a long time ago wouldn't have lived as long as they did, and they didn't live long anyway because there wasn't no medicine back then like there are now. People live now twice as long as they did 50 years ago. And then also, you sell a jar of liquor, it puts some bread on the table. That's about the only way anybody could get by back in them days. Back a long time ago, such as my granddaddy, or there was this old man named Manson Owens. He had a house full of little youngins, and the only way he could feed them, he couldn't get no job. He had to get out here and take what corn he raised and turn it into a jar of liquor. You can sell a jar of liquor when you can't sell a bushel of taters. And that's the way that folks put bread on their table for their kids to eat, and put clothes on them. And sent some of them to school. Most of them didn't go to no school. No, I never did help them when I was growing up where I was raised at. Old man Abe Silvers, he used to make liquor. He'd come walking down Hemp Hill Road where I was raised at. One time he fell right in front of the house over there in the road. Had a load of liquor on his back in tow sacks. He's drunk and he fell. He busted 2 or 3 jars of his liquor when he fell backwards. You could hear him cuss for 5 miles. I guess so, 'cause back then liquor, I mean, that was your life, you know. If you didn't have none, by God, you'd starve. But they said old Abe was one of the best in the world at it. Well, I tell you what, my granddaddy helped build the first Baptist church was built on Hemp Hill. He made liquor all his life. He made liquor, and I've been told this to be the truth too. And he took the liquor and sold it, and then took the money and helped buy the materials it took to build the first Baptist church on Hemp Hill that was ever built. I guess no matter what kind of, how you get your money, I mean, if you put it in the right place, I guess the good Lord probably bless you for it anyway. Whether you got it selling taters or making liquor, Don't matter, don't reckon. Don't to me, anyway. Yeah, my granddad died in 1964, and buried him in a place called the Sugar Cove. Back then, the roads were rough, and there's gullies washed out 3 foot deep. And he died in March, and there's snow on the ground. The ambulance went, a hearse or whatever you call it, went as far as it could go, and then we unloaded him off the hearse on the back of a Jeep truck and took ropes and roped the casket down and hauled it on into the cemetery. But my dad told me back years before that when somebody died, they'd go down there to Hemphill Church and ring the church bell. And then there was a man up there, his name was Duckett. He had a great big team of horses. He'd meet there where the gravel road ends, and he'd put the casket over on a sled and hook that big team of horses to it and pull it all the way to the graveyard on a sled. When I was born, we lived in an old log house on the mountain up there called the Fred Moody Mountain. Made out of little old poles about that big, best I can remember. Well, Daddy sold that, and he moved on down the road there a couple of miles, right on the side of the road. He took this old horse he had, this old mare horse, and he pulled logs off that mountain, took them to the sawmill, had them sawed, and built that house just like this one is.
At least you got logs in here.
No, made out of nothing but chestnut lumber. Chestnut. Well, he built the old house, and all it had in it when I was the best I can remember was black tar paper on the inside of the house. You could see the wind blowing that tar paper puff up and it'd go back down, puff up and it'd go back down. And all they had to heat the old house with was a fireplace, and it wasn't worth a shit. Well, along come electricity. Got it in about 1954 or 55, I think it was. Somewhere about there. I won't miss it much. 54, 55, we had electricity. I remember this old man coming there. He's driving a big old long base Chevrolet truck. And he was the one that wired your house. See, nowadays you have to have all these codes and stuff and all that. Back then he'd just run a wire up there and staple it to the goddamn wall, and that was it. And back then them old wires they run through houses didn't have nothing on but like cloth shit wrapped around them like a tow sack. Now they got plastic wrapped around them, and rats can't chew them. But I remember that old man, he was a big old man. He'd come in there and he'd sit and fool that damn shit 30 minutes, and then he'd go by and put in another socket. See, nowadays a house has got to have sockets every 6 feet apart or something like that before they'll pass the inspection. Back then you put one here and one in yonder, and that's it. Well, we got electricity in 54 or 55, I can't remember which. Mom and Daddy saved up enough money somehow, I don't know how they did, to get a refrigerator. Oh, I thought that was something, by God. But the first refrigerator I ever seen was before that. My Auntie and Uncle D down the road wouldn't learn me how to drive a A model. They got the first refrigerator I guess ever come up in that country. It took 2 or 3 men to carry it in the house. It was more heavy son of bitches. Now they don't weigh nothing. But anyway, they carried that thing there and set it up. And back then, this guy called the Wadkin man. He run up through there every month and he sold salve and rosebud salve and flavor and make cakes with, and then he sold this stuff we call a beverage base. My Aunt Andy bought a bottle of that shit, and here come that refrigerator. She took them ice trays out. They used to have a handle on them. You pull them like that and it makes the ice break. Nowadays you squeeze them and it breaks. But she put some of that shit in there. And I couldn't wait long enough for it to freeze, I don't reckon, but I did. She froze them little blocks of shit and brought me one out there, boy, I thought I was in seven heavens. A damn froze popsicle, man, never seen one. But then Mom and Daddy got one. Don't know how the Debs did. Of course, it wasn't new, it was used, and everything I've ever had has been used, by God, or wore out one. I ain't never owned nothing new in my life. All I've ever had was second-handed. I started smoking when I was 6 years old, and I'm gonna quit when I die, I reckon. But anyway, I was up in the broomshade patch above the old schoolhouse. I was smoking, and the bell rung, take up school, and I broke around to get there. And on the way down through there, there's a big old ditch about 4 foot deep down the side of the school ground. And I went running down there, and I spotted a big old tall man laying there with overalls on down in that ditch. I thought for a minute he probably drunk, because I'd seen people passed out like that all my life, a bunch of drunks. I went on down to the schoolhouse and told the principal, big old man named Jesse James. I told him, I said, I believe there's a dead man laying up here in that ditch. And he wanted me to show him where, and that tickled me, because I was getting out of less school time, showing him where it's at. But anyway, take him up there, and he went off in that ditch, and sure enough, he caught a hold of the man and moved him a little bit, and he was dead. And that's the first dead man I ever found, I reckon.
Have you found many others?
Found a little baby dead one time. After that, I used to walk down the road from my house and catch a bus down to the next house from where I lived. Yeah, catch a school bus. And I went in this house, and I was standing there by an old heater stove, and there's a little baby laying over in the crib there. The woman that's tending to it, she's sitting on a bed doing something, sewing up something. And Daddy, he'd come down there with me. He'd walk down there with me to catch a bus for some reason. He's going on to town or something. But anyway, I stand there looking at that little baby, and I've been around kids all my life. And that little baby didn't look right to me. It looked just as blue as a fish hook. And I told that woman, I said, this baby over here is dead. She said, no, ain't nothing wrong with it. She said, I just fed it a few minutes ago. And Daddy, when I said that, he looked over and he told her, he said, yeah, I said, it's dead. And sure enough, it was. Little baby about that long. Yeah, Daddy, he worked on the fire top way up yonder behind Ghost Town. He worked up there for a woman from Paris, Texas. He was her yard keeper, or whatever you want to call it, maintenance man or whatever. So he had to walk to work. He lived down on Hemphill and walked to the fire top, which is about 3 miles. He walked there and back every day to work till he finally got enough money to buy an old mare horse, and then he rode that horse. And then later on, he got an old pickup truck, and then he drove around down Hemphill and up Maggie Valley and up the fire top. But back then when he walked up there, and Mom wanted to send him a note from Hemphill to the fire top, I had this old shepherd dog named Peggy, and she'd take one of the little old sacks that smoking tobacco used to come in, and she'd write a note, put it in that sack, tied around that dog's neck, and tell her to go, and she'd go straight to where Daddy was. And he'd get the note, and then send her a message back. The dog would take it straight back home. Back when I was coming up, nobody had a flashlight. You take them old guys that walks the roads at night, you'd see a light coming flickering up the road. That's what they call a bottle light. Take one of them old thick Coca-Cola bottles. And one of these old bottles they make nowadays, well, they don't make bottles, they make plastic. But back in my day, one of them old thick Coca-Cola bottles, they'd pour about half full of kerosene and get an old rag of some kind and screw down in that damn bottle and turn it up and let it saturate the top of it. And light that. Hell, you could walk all night with that thing before it burn out of kerosene. When I was a kid, I've had people come out at Daddy's house and say, will you make me a bottle of light? And back then, kerosene was only 10 cents a gallon. Now it's $2 and something. But Daddy, I've seen him make bottle lights for, I don't know, how many people, I don't know. I hear them guys are singing, whoever they might be, about their poor old daddy riding an old John Deere tractor all day long. I feel sorry for them. That's a hard job, I know it is. But what if they'd had done like my poor old daddy? Walk behind a goddamn mule and smell it a farting all day. I see my daddy and talk to him and everything in my sleep. That's a hell of a feeling. He's been dead now a long time. I've been shooting a gun ever since I was, I guess, 5 or 6 years old. My daddy taught me how to shoot. And I used to go camping when I was somewhere around 7 years old, or no more than 8, I'm sure. I'd take my shepherd dog, and Daddy give me a little old single-shot .22 rifle and a box of shells, and I'd go about a mile from my house, way back on that mountain, and camp out, me and my dog, all by myself. Yeah, I've flew with a gun ever since I was about 5 years old, and back then kids was taught how to handle a gun and not to play with them and stuff. Nowadays, you can't let a kid have a gun, they're liable to shoot each other. Back when I went to school, there was this old boy, he was 3 times my size or more. I got on the bus and I wore me a little, what they call now, I guess a baseball cap. I guess that's what you call it. Poor Daddy bought me one of them for $25, I guess it was, or less. I was proud of my cap. I wore it to school every day. Well, I always sat in the front seat up here next to the driver on the bus. There's the second seat back, whichever one I could get. Well, this big old boy, he'd come up there and he'd get my hat, my cap. He'd toss it from here, pump back to the back of that damn old school bus. This other feller'd catch it. Well, naturally, I'd run back there to try to get my hat, you know. I'd want my hat. I'd go try to catch it when they throwed it. Couldn't catch it. Hell, a little old kid that goddamn big. Well, they done that day after day. They get my cap, throw it back on. I'd run, couldn't get it. Run up here, couldn't get it. Run up here, couldn't get it. Well, I'd go home a-crying. I think I went home crying 3 times, I believe it was. Best I remember. Daddy said, what are you crying about? He'd be sitting on the porch when the school bus come up. I'd tell him what happened. This feller got my hat and threw it back there to another feller, and I went home that 3rd time. That 3rd time it happened. Daddy sitting on the porch, he had a case double X knife. That's a case with one blade that comes out of each end of it. They're priceless now. Called a muskrat, the knife was. Case double X. He's sitting there, he could sharpen a knife till it wouldn't even wake a mouse up if he's asleep when he shaved him with it. He's sitting there rubbing that knife. He'd take his old shoe and he'd wet it down here on it. On that leather. He could hold up a piece of paper like that and just split that son of a bitch like nothing happened. He was that good at it. Well, I come home crying that third evening. My daddy was sitting on the porch sharpening a case double X knife, like I said. When you open it up, it'll blade on both ends. It's a two-bladed knife. I was crying like hell when I went home. He said, I wonder what the damn problem is. I said, right now. I told him what happened. He didn't say no more. I thought he was going to whoop my ass or something, you know. 'Cause back then, by God, when they told you something, you better do it. Nowadays, they tell kids something, why, they'll say, fuck you or something. But no, it wasn't way back when I come up. All he done, shut that knife up, hand it to me. And you know, I've been pretty smart all my life. Proud of it. He said, you come home crying tomorrow, and he said, I'm going to whoop the shit out of you myself. Oh, I know what that meant. Oh, shit. That's like pissing in a fucking hornet nest. Well, the very next day, on the bus. Didn't do it in the morning. They done beating. Didn't fool me in the morning. I just sat on there like a big dick pipe with my little cap on and went to school. See, back then, the big kids rode with the little kids. Now they got a different bus that runs for them. They got a bus that carries the big kids and one that carries the little kids. No, back then, you rode the best you could. Damn lucky to ride then. But anyway, that particular evening, here come that old boy. He grabbed my hat. He throwed it to the back of the bus. I just reached in my pocket and opened that goddamn knife. I caught that son of a bitch right there, and I cut him and cut his belt in two. Plumb down his goddamn ass. Well, the bus driver seen what happened. He looked in that mirror up there. So he stops. He called the goddamn rescue. Well, there wasn't no rescue squad back then. The ambulance, the funeral home's the one you call. See, they run the emergency service. The funeral home did. There wasn't no rescue squad. There wasn't such a thing. Never heard tell of it. Funeral home took you to the hospital if you need to go in an ambulance.
Did you cut him from up here down to?
From right there, the goddamn goose will plumb out his ass. Cut his belt in two. 'Cause that knife was sharper than every razor it's ever been. Well, they didn't take me off the bus or nothing. They left me on there and I went on home. I got off and went in the house. I had blood on my hands. Daddy's sitting on the porch. He just got done with a 10-hour day's work or 8 hours, whatever he done. I've seen his hands crack open. He'd take a candle and melt the damn shit and they'd run them cracks to keep his hands from bleeding. I had the hardest working daddy in the world. But anyway, I wasn't crying that day when I went home. And I didn't no more than walk up the steps to the old house. So here come a guy in a Ford truck. He was that other fella's daddy. And he walked up on the porch and everybody called my daddy Vade. His name was Vader, but they called him Vade. He said, Vade, what are we going to do about your boy cutting my boy? And my daddy told him, said, if you don't get your goddamn ass off this porch, you're going to get the same goddamn thing. That's the end of the story. There wasn't no more to it. It was over with. It's done. And Uncle D, he smoked Prince Albert tobacco. Now, this is the truth if I ever told it. I'd go down there and he'd give me a pack of papers, them OCB cigarette papers. Then he'd give me a can of tobacco, and I'd sit there and smoke it, took my breath, or got burnt up with it one, because the old Prince Albert dropped off and burned a hole in your clothes. I could smoke down there, but I couldn't smoke at home. Mom and Daddy, they tried to raise me the best they could. They didn't do too damn good a job at it, but they tried. I'd go down on Friday, and I'd stay till up in the day on Sunday, and I'd go back home. Aunt Annie, when that old man would come up Hemp Hill selling peaches, she'd buy a bushel of peaches off of him. That is, if she had the money. And she'd peel me the biggest peach she had and cut it up in a dish and give it to me. I guess she's one of the only kin people I got that I respect, except Cookie Woods, and he's gold. I'd give that mother anything I had if he asked me for it. He's gold. Cookie Woods. But Uncle D, he'd tell me to go out there and he showed me how to start the old A model. You had to turn the gas on, you had to raise the hood and turn that valve and turn the gas on. Choke it. And head far, it'd start real quick. It'd sit there and sput, but I can hear one of them just ticking right now. And his driveway below the old house about 200 feet long or something like that. He'd let me put it in gear and go out through there and stop out yonder and back up there. Pull up and back up there. That's the first I ever got to drive at that time. Well, one day he seen me go from low gear to second. He said, "You're getting a little faster, ain't you?" I said, "Yeah, Uncle D, I watched you how you changed gears." I said, "I thought I could do it." So one day he said, "Well, now you can go up the road with it. There's an old gravel road that went out there like that, and you had to pull up there, and then back up, and then go again to get up the road." He's in there with me. I was driving, he's over on the passenger seat. In case something happened, I guess he could grab a wheel or something. So I pulled her up there, and I'd watched him do it 1,000 times. Because they used to pick me up on Friday evening, they'd go up to my aunt's house, which I loved her. She's been dead and gone for a long, long time. That's Cookie's mother. The most blackguarding woman that ever hit the ground. And I know a lot of people don't know what blackguarding means. That's somebody that talks goddamn nasty. And Luther Woods was the world, by God, best or worst or whatever you want to say about it, I don't know. She didn't give a goddamn what she said, wherever she went. It didn't make no difference if it was kids, preachers. She said what she thought. That's Cookie Woods' mother. Cookie was going to this old girl up there in Maggie somewhere, something other, I don't know, some woman. And it's the truth. Little Ken Roberts says, don't make it habit of lying. But there's up there at the old Joe Camel Dance Hall in Maggie Valley. That was the first attraction there was besides Ted Sutton. Ted Sutton was the first attraction that ever hit Maggie Valley. And then Joe Camel built that dance hall. And every Saturday night, my daddy had an old pickup truck, and he'd come off a Hemphill with it and drive up Maggie Valley to Joe Camel's dance hall. And he'd have the whole back of the truck full, because people didn't have another car up there then much. So they'd ride his pickup truck up there and dance all night and do whatever they wanted to do. And then he'd take them back to the house, and they'd walk on home from there. But one night up there, Luther was up there, and Cookie was up there. And this other feller, I can't call no names, he was mad because Cookie had his woman. Well, he made his brags he's going to whoop Cookie Woods' ass, I reckon, you know. And he said it in front of the wrong person, because that happened to be Cookie's mother. And she was left-handed. And the guy that made that remark, that he go whoop Cookie Woods' ass, I guess that's the wrong thing to say. Because Luther come around, I was there. I was just a little old kid, I guess you might call me. She come around that left hand and she splattered them glasses right in his damn face. And back then, I don't know how it is now, but back then it was strictly against the law to hit a man that had glasses on. She come around that left hand and she busted them glasses right in his damn face. Here come the law. They cited her to court. I think Fred Campbell was the sheriff back then in Maggie Valley. Yeah, he was. He was a good feller. He's a big old man, raw boned, bald-headed. I remember him well yesterday. He's a good old man. But they took Luther to court. And I went with my daddy up there. Daddy happened to be in town that day. And we just went up there to the courtroom, and they convicted her, whatever you want to call it, of hitting a man with glasses on. She said, yeah, I done it, and I'll do it again. That old judge, whoever he was, didn't like that too good. So he said, I'm going to fine you $100. And that was a hell of a lot of money back then. That's like $2,000 or $3,000 now. And I never will forget Cookie's daddy, old man Ernest Woods. He said, that ain't no damn problem. He just unzipped his overhaul pocket, pulled $100 out and laid it down his knives, go home. Yeah. That's the actual truth. Like I said, my uncle taught me how to drive that old A model. Well, he parked the damn thing, got him a 50 model Ford back at that time. So I wanted that old car, and I didn't have the money, but my daddy went down there, get me another beer. Now I'll tell you some more. It's the truth.
No, I've got one.
This is facts I'm telling him. But Uncle D parked the old A model out behind the house and got him a 50 model Ford. And one day I told Daddy, I said, I want that A model. Went down and asked Uncle D if he'd sell it. He said, yeah, if you want it, I'll sell it. My daddy asked him, said, how much do you want for it? He said, I'll take $20 for it. Well, Uncle D needed some hay for his horse and cow, the old milk cow. And Daddy went and got him $20 worth of hay and traded it to him for that A model for me. Well, it wouldn't run, the battery was dead in it. Points are stuck, the son of a bitch wouldn't start. So I got Noble Burgess, Daddy did, to take and hook a big log truck to it and pull it up to the house, which wasn't but about a quarter of a mile away or something like that. I never could get it started. Battery died. One day I got Denton Rathbone. He's dead now. He was an A model man. Come down and start the damn thing. I got a hold of an 8-volt battery and put in. It used a 6-volt, and I got a hold of an 8-volt. Picked up Coca-Cola bottles to buy the damn battery with. I got it started. Had 2 flat tires on it. Hell, I couldn't drive it. But I get out there and start it up and listen to that run. That was music to my ears to hear that A model run. I drove it. Seemed like 1,000 miles, and I hadn't drove it 20 miles. I learned how to drive the damn thing. And still know right today everything about one. That's the reason I said if I lived long enough, by God, I'd have me one of them, just like the one I learned to drive on. And it's sitting up at the house in the damn garage. It's like a brand new one. Well, anyway, I got it up at the house, and like I said, I never did drive it no more. That was the end of my driving the A model. It sat there in the backyard behind the house. I'd get out there and crank her up and bud, reminisce and whatever. But anyway, it sat there for years behind the house. And my daddy met some guys from over in Franklin, North Carolina. This one guy, he wanted to buy the A model. I told him, no, you can't buy that. It ain't for sale. Well, I was working back then for 50 cents an hour in a mater field. Picking maters, putting fertilizer out, whatever it took to do to grow them maters, that's what I was doing. Working for old man Jim Moody. I saved me up enough money. I'd take my money home at night. This ain't no shit. And I'd take an iron and iron that money. It was flat. And I saved my money. I saved me up $75. Oh, I was richer than 3 foot up a bull's ass. Well, my cousin, Otis Sutton, he worked down in Hickory down there. And he'd found this 48 Plymouth car. It was olive green. And the forward door and the back door was open backwards on the thing. And it was on a car lot. They wanted $75 for it, and that was a lot of damn money. Well, he helped me get it. And he drove it from Hickory back to the ice hole of the world Hemp Hill. Pardon me. Then it was mine. But back about my A model. How come me to get rid of it is when I got the 48 Plymouth. I got my 48 Plymouth. Well, I broke that weekend, didn't have no money. And poor Mom and Dad, they never did have no money all their life anyway. Mommy said, what'll you take that A model? I said, I'll take $75 for it. She said, I ain't got all of it. She said, can I pay you 25 now and 25 next week and 25 whenever I get it? I said, oh yeah, no problem, because I was hot to go. I had that 48 Plymouth and I wanted to ride, slide. So I sold it to her and she paid me $75 for it. Had it now, it'd be worth $10,000. Or priceless if I had that, and I'd sleep in it if I had it. Well, it'd sit there a while longer behind the house. Just sit there. I know where it's sitting. I could see it right now sitting there. Well, them same people come back from Franklin, North Carolina. Again. Asked Mommy what she'd take for the A model. It was hers and it wasn't mine. And that was back a long time ago. She said, I'll take $500 for it. And she only paid me $75. Well, that guy didn't waste no time. He had money. He said, here. So they brought a wrecker there and hauled her away. Well, the next thing I heard about the A model was, and I don't know whether this is truth or not. I don't tell nothing unless I know it's true, but I'll tell you what I've heard. I've never seen it, but somebody said it was facts. And an old preacher over in Franklin got it. And he went and had it fixed up like the one I've got now. And drove it to church every Sunday morning. Of course, he's dead, but now I'm sure, because that's been many years ago. But that's the end of my A model. It went. But Mommy made money off of it, you know.
Yeah.
75 to 500.
And you always wanted to get another A model, I guess.
Oh, you damn right. I swore to myself, if I live long enough, I'd own me one just like the one I had. Of course, it didn't have value like that one had to me. Sentimental value. But by God, I got me one. Just like it. I'm telling him from ground up stories of my life, little Bill. Living history. Popcorn Sutton. I always said since I was a little old kid, that someday that's what I was going to end up doing, making liquor and hauling it. And when I got old enough and got me a little old still made, I done just what I said I was going to do.
What was your first still and your first setup?
Well, the first still I ever owned, it held one barrel, which was 50 gallon. I didn't have no money to buy no still with. So I went to an old man, his name was Nick Price, he's a damn good feller. And I told him I wanted to make me a little liquor, and I didn't have no pot. He said, well, you know, Nick always had a little money. He loaned me enough money to buy the copper and the sorter with. So I took the copper to Junior Valentine, a man over on Cosby. He's been dead now, I guess, 20-some years. But he made me that little old pot. I forget what it cost to have it made back then. It wasn't near what it would cost now. But I got that little barrel pot. I took it back on Snowbird Mountain, and I made liquor. Just had up 2 barrels of beer. That's all I could afford to keep up. Buy sugar and stuff for. That's how I got my first still. I borrowed the money and paid it back with liquor. I paid Nick back with liquor. Every time I'd make a run, I'd pay him a gallon on what I owed him, which I only got $6 for a whole damn gallon. Seems like it took me forever to pay him what I owed him, but I paid him right to the last penny. And I'd give him 1 gallon on my debt, and I'd sell him the other 5. He'd pay me cash. Well, I'd go buy my stuff back to put it back with, and then I'd have a little money left to buy me some groceries. And back then I was renting. It only cost $10 a month for the old house I was renting. And anyway, I got up to 4 barrels. Well, I had a big operation, I thought. Well, I was making a little more money every time, you know. And I kept getting bigger, bigger. And anyway, I had an old 46 model Willis Jeep, and it had pinholes eating the gas tank. It was under the driver's seat. And I'd pour a gallon of gas in it that morning when I left Cosby. And it'd take me all the way to the top of Snowbird Mountain, that 1 gallon would. All right? I always kept me another gallon in the back of it, so I could pour it in that evening when I headed off Snowbird to get back to Cosby again. So I happened to look. Damn, I'd forgot to set my gallon of gas in there. And I hadn't tempered the liquor, I just set it in the Jeep. And I had it numbered like that. The jugs, I had it in gallon glass jugs, and I had them numbered. Number 2 is your highest jug, and number 3. Number 1's got a little bit of condensation in it out of the worm, but 2 and 3 is kick-ass liquor, shots. I poured that number 2 jug in there. The old Jeep wouldn't start no way. It didn't have no compression in the motor. You always had to roll it off the start. You had to park it on a hill or you wasn't going to start it. I just had to pour that gallon of shots in there. I pushed it off, but damn, you couldn't see it for the blue smoke. But like I said before, I poured the shots in it. I met old man Nick Price coming up the mountain in that 4-wheel drive Ford truck. He's just a-flying. He's popcorn big logs down yonder at Ray Mathis' house, he said. You better turn around and go back side of Snowbird. I said, hell, I ain't got no gas. I run out of gas. Well, he said, let's see if we can cypher some ice truck. I had a hose laying in the back of the old Jeep. We couldn't get that hose to fit in that truck gas tank. It made it wouldn't go in some way. So I told him, I said, well, that's when I poured the shots to it. I said, I'll make a damn thing run. I poured them shots down there and fired it off. You couldn't see it for blue smoke. I backed it up in the woods and turned around, went across the backside of Snowbird by the tire and down the mountain, come out on Gracie Fort and went on to Cosby with my liquor and everything else. When they first opened that interstate in '68, I'd have come off Snowbird, I was about drunk. I had a load of liquor in the back of the old 46 Jeep. And I got down there right before you get to the Waterville exit there, coming down Green Corner Road. There must have been 100 highway patrols and sheriffs and rescues and stretched out limos, and I didn't know what in the hell was going on. They was having a ribbon cutting ceremony for that Interstate 40 when they opened it in 1968. But they didn't pay me no attention about more than nothing. I just shut the motor off on that old Jeep because it didn't have no muffler. You could hear it for 5 miles. But I shut the motor off just like coast rat, threw them there, and they never even seen me. I got by and they didn't get me. If you're going to haul liquor in a car, you need to have a spring built up on the back of it. or have air shocks on it, one. Used to be a long time ago, they made such things they called clip coils. They took a coil spring out from under a pickup truck, and they welded two pieces of metal on each end of it, and they'd jack the car up and set it between the frame and the axle. So that made the car set up more, see. And when you loaded its liquor, it come down level. I guess a 40 Ford Coupe was the most popular liquor car ever was. They had them built up flathead motors in them, like I once had in a 53 Mercury. A 53 Ford I had. But they would haul ass, and you can't throw them out of the road hardly. Always when I haul a load of liquor, a good time to haul it when it was raining. I was hoping it'd rain like hell when I got ready to take off with the load, because the law's not too apt to stop you and it'll pour in the rain down, unless you've done something pretty damn bad, you know. And when you've got a load of liquor going down the road, you're not going to be running 80 miles an hour, not like you did back in the 40s and 50s when they outrun the law. Back then you could outrun them, but you play hell outrun them now. You can outrun them radios and got so many cars they'll get you. Oliver Hicks and Lethe lived at the bend of the river. Both of them dead now. Oliver, he died in 1968, and Lethe died in 1996. I met him the first time, it was about 1966. Used to be the road going into their place, it had to be a Jeep really to get in there, but I had an old 53 Plymouth car that I took in there. Me and Bern Leatherwood took them a load of sugar in there one time. They made a little liquor now and then. It's the only way they had a living anyway, I reckon. And we took that old car in there, and by the time we got back out of there, it smashed the oil pan plumb up on it. It knocked the muffler off. It tore the whole undersides up under it, but it was still running. And that's the first time I was ever in there. We took them 300 or 400 pounds of sugar in there. And then after that, I kept going back more often, mainly to get me a jar of the finest liquor you ever seen. They was known to make the best. So I'd go in there quite often for me a jar of liquor. Well, later on, Oliver, he passed away in 1968. And I got to go in there, and then later on, Lethe stayed up there all by herself, so I would stay there with her quite a bit. And carry in wood and take her to town, store, wherever, doctor. And then me and her, we got to making a little liquor there, and I guess we made about 4 years off and on, till a certain fella come in there and we had to shut down because we knowed he'd go to have us caught, so we shut it down and never did run it no more till she died. She had 11 sisters and no brother. Lisa did. Down at the bend of the river. That's a 12-mile strip, they call it now. Used to be they called it the bend of the river. See, back then the bend of the river was a place where you went if you got in trouble with the law, you went to the bend of the river and you was out of it. God damn.
You want a new one?
Yeah. And little Bill, what I'm telling is facts. It ain't no shit. It's something I remember from my kid days to right now.
You tell me about Lethe.
Yeah, I'm talking about Lethe Hicks. She had 11 sisters and no brothers. Her mama used to plow a steer. Take an old steer and plow him out there and plow up on him hillside and grow corn. See, I stayed with Lethe a long time. We made liquor down there till this certain feller come along. Wasn't nothing but a 24-carat son of a bitch. But anyway, he come along and he found our place. And I knowed what he'd do, go straight to Haywood County and tell the damn law where we's at. So,
It seems like Lethe was an important person in your life.
oh yeah, I stayed down there with her, I don't know, goddamn long time. She was something else. She died in 1997. November 97. She's up there buried right where my daddy is now, same graveyard. She's about 10 graves down where my daddy is. Of course, my marker's up there now. It's got my name on it and all that shit.
What was it like making liquor back in that time when you were making it back with Lethe?
Back then, it was hard as shit. See, we left her house, which was here. And we walked down this little knoll and up this little knoll, up to the graveyard. Then we went out that ridge and off to the right. And I mean, it was straight off like that. She had a name for every place up there on that mountain. That particular place where we made liquor, she called it the Holly Holler. Because there's holly bushes down there. Them old wild holly bushes. Well, we went down and she had a little 35-gallon pot. I call them piss pots. I'd been used to pulling with something bigger. Because the first one I ever started with was a 50. And then me and her started making on a 35. I thought, well, hell, that's going downhill instead of coming up. So we went off there and we dug out a hole back in the bank and set that pot. I took an old steel barrel and cut the head out of both ends of it and slid it up against that pot. And took rocks and mud and dirt, whatever, and packed around it. And you build a fire in this steel barrel and that heat goes around that pot, and there's an opening at the back of it, lets the smoke go out of it. We went down and we sweetened it in. Went and run it. Of course, didn't make nothing on the first run. Hell, on 35 gallon, hell, we didn't get but a gallon. That was good. On the first beginning, as she always called it. So we run that damn thing on the first run, didn't get about a gallon. Hell, we drunk that in 2 days. But when we went back, we sweetened that damn thing in. It made 3 gallons. That's what it's supposed to make anyway. It's according to what your slop is, according to how much liquor you're gonna make. If you got good beer, or mash, or slop, or whatever you want to call it, well, you'll have some good liquor. Your liquor's not made in the still; it's made in the barrel. If your mash ain't no good, your liquor ain't no good. So we run sweet mash first run, put her back in the barrel. Had a 55-gallon oak barrel. It was in somewhere around July and it good weather, so you can't make liquor in the wintertime. The weather's got all in the world to do with it. If the weather ain't right, you don't make no liquor. But we went back and sweetened it in. Next time we run it, we got 3 gallons, I believe it was. Good high liquor. Well, we put it back on the 3rd time. Shit, we done real good that time. We got 4 gallons on a 35-gallon pot, and that's a half a gallon more than what you're supposed to get. So we're doing good. Shitting in high cotton. We made there for a long time. In the Holly Holler. Lisa used to dance by the thump keg, by the racket that makes she keep time with it. Yeah, she called it the thump keg waltz. Yeah, she'd drink her about 2 of them Vienna sausage cans full right straight off that worm. She's tough. Then she'd start doing the thump keg waltz. She'd hit every lick that did. See, it starts off thumping real slow, she go. Then she keep getting faster. You ought to seen her, it's something else. Of evening when we get done, I was a lot stouter back then than I am now. She'd hang on the back of my overalls, cause she'd be drunker than hell. And I'd have a load of liquor tied on my back with in tow sacks. And she'd hang on to my overalls and I'd drag her up that damn laurel thicket. And when we got to the top, she'll say, well, now I don't need your pulling no more now. Then we'd go into the house, and then, by God, both of us would get drunk. One night, me and Lethe was down there drunk in hell. She slept in the back room, and I slept on the couch in the living room. One night, we sat there, and sometimes we'd get talking nasty. I said, Lethe, I said, a man, when he gets so old, I said, he quits wanting it, don't he? She said, I've heard the dead. I said, well, now, how old does a woman have to get before she quits wanting it? She said, damn if I know, you'll let that somebody older than me, and she's about 80 years old when she said that. It's the hardest work you ever done in making liquor is, I mean, digging a ditch right through a hard packed road ain't a damn bit harder than making liquor. There's a chance you take the damn thing and blow it up and scalding you, and a lot of times you'll fire one up and you think you're going to make a damn truckload, you won't even make one drop. I don't care how long you've been a fooling with it, you can't predict from one time to another what it's going to do. It'll make, like it's supposed to make 6 gallons to a barrel is what it's supposed to do. Well, I've seen it make 7 gallons to a barrel. Of course, that's a rare occasion. But then I've seen it, you fire it up and all you get is blue water. I mean, it's just something you gamble with, big time gamble. You don't know what you're going to get from one time to the next. You can smell a barrel of beer and it'll smell like it's got lots of alcohol in it. Why, hell, you pour it in the still to run it, you get nothing. I mean, it's just a gamble, big time gamble. I mean, you win, you lose, you win, you lose. It's heartbreaking to work your ass off and buy the sugar and malt and corn and stuff and then not get a damn thing out of it. When I started on Snowbird, I had to borrow the money to buy the sugar and stuff with on the first beginning. If I'd have lost out on that time, I really would have been ruined. Of course, on your first run, you don't make nothing no way. It's called sweet mash. Your stuff's not soured up or nothing. And if you get 3 gallons off a barrel when you first put it in on sweet mash, you're flying. At the second run, becomes sour mash. All your stuff soured up real good. When you pour it back in your barrel and put the sugar to it, it'll come back to sour mash, and then it'll turn out some real good liquor then. And like I said, if you're lucky, it'll turn out 6 gallons of liquor to a barrel. As far as anybody teaching you how to make liquor, they can give you some pointers, but nobody can't teach you how to make the damn stuff. You got to teach yourself. I mean, that's it. Of course, I've had people tell me things that I tried and it worked. Some of it didn't work, but most of it I more or less invented on my own, what I know about it.
So how old were you when you started making liquor?
Damn, I guess I was about 16.
Did you make moonshine with your dad?
Yeah, me and Daddy made together for 30 years in one place and never was caught. His daddy was a moonshiner too, but Daddy's like myself. He more or less learned it on his own what he knowed about it. Nobody can't put your hand on it and tell you what to do. It takes a stout man to make liquor. Most people would quit before they started if they knew what was in the shit. And in the second place, it takes somebody that's got a mind to do the shit, to buy the material, market it. Hell, you don't know who you're going to sell it to. You might sell it to a damn alcohol agent. You don't want to do that. That's a no-no. I've done that. Shit, I've been there. Hell yeah, I've been in jail. Goddamn right. Well, I'll tell you how I got caught the first time I got caught.
Okay.
In August 1974. I had me a little old 2-barrel copper pot, which had 100 gallons. I was over on a mountain they call Topher over yonder. It was up above Hartford in Tennessee. Well, some goddamn nosy-ass rat son of a bitch turned me in. Whoever he was, I hope he hears what I say, but anyway. I went in there that morning to run my little old pot. It wasn't ready to run, it's still working. But I need some money, so I had to run it. I had a feller that was going to buy the liquor the next day, Kenneth Hall. He said, bring me every drop of it, because he knowed I didn't make shit liquor, I made good liquor. He was a bootlegger, and he could sell all the liquor I took him, no problem. I went in there and I put the cap on that son of a bitch and capped it up, pasted it in. As far as the burner on it, just had one little core through it. About 8-inch cord running through it with a burner in it. I got it just ready to cap. And there was 2 alcohol agents up on this real steep hill right above me. I can tell you their name. I guess I should. I don't know if I should or not. When I was reaching up to fill the cap like that to see if it's hot, see if the steam was coming up on it. And shit, about that time a gun stuck in my back. Halt, he said. I looked around, I said, God damn, I ain't killed nobody. I said, what's the problem? They handcuffed me behind my back right quick. And they tore it down. They didn't chop it up or nothing. They tore it down.
What do you mean?
Took it apart.
They didn't just chop it. They
No, they
took it apart piece by piece.
Yeah, took it apart piece by piece. And the worm is the most precious thing you've got in a moonshine operation. That's your money piece, they call it. It was Wayne Valentine worm, made by Junior Valentine. It's made out of sheet copper. You cut a strip so wide and you sort it together in about 8-foot sections, and then you pack it full of sand and you roll it around an old hot water tank. I know how to do it now. I didn't know back then, but I can make one now. But that's what the worm is, and that's your most important piece of equipment you got. See, when you run a pot back in them mountains, you'd take that worm out and hide it way out yonder somewhere, afraid somebody come by and steal it. And they would steal your worm. Hell yeah. Used to be a long time ago, so they've changed the liquor laws some. They've made it a lesser offense than what it used to be. Back, I guess about 15 years ago, was when they changed the law. They dropped it from a felony charge to a misdemeanor charge. But back a long time ago, like the 50s and 60s and 70s right in there, if they caught you with just a cap off of one, you didn't have to have the whole still. If you just had any part of it, the cap or the worm or whatever, pot, You didn't have to have it operating, just have it in your possession, and damned if they wouldn't give you time for just having that one piece of stuff. That's like Billy Barton's daddy one time. They caught him with a condenser. And that's all they caught him with. Didn't catch him no still, no nothing. And they give him, I think he told me, a year and a day in Atlanta, Georgia penitentiary for having that condenser, just for having it. But they said this was the truth. Now, I don't know. I'm just saying what I heard. Said when they tried him, said that, I reckon when a judge tries somebody, they always ask you at the end of the deal, do you have anything you want to say? So, yeah, Billy Barton's daddy said, yeah, I've got something I want to say. Said, since you've tried me for having this condenser and give me time and everything, said, you'll just get me for rape while you're at it, because he said, I've damn sure got the tool to do it with. Anything that I've ever used to make liquor out of, sugar, meal, rye, barley, whatever, the jars it's put in, I think it's my damn business if I want to make it, because I bought the stuff. I didn't steal it. I'm afraid to steal anyway. But I bought it, and I figure what's mine is mine. But they've got to have the tax off of it. That's the only problem. The tax on it's somewhere around $13 a gallon. That's what they got to kick about. I mean, I'm not above the law, don't get me wrong. If it wasn't for the law, you couldn't walk a goddamn road, really. But I have respect for some of them, and some of them I don't. And I ain't gonna say who I have respect for and who I don't. But there's some of them decent fellers, and some of them ain't nothing but 24-karat son of a bitches. So I'll not make that decision and tell you who they are. I just tell it like it is. But there's not such a thing, Neil, as honesty this day and time. Now, I can name you a couple of people that's honest. Maybe a couple. But anyway, back when I was growing up, if a man borrowed, say 50 cents off of you, but which was big money, or a dollar, that's big money, dollar. If you loaned a man $1 back in my days, back in my heydays, that was a lot of money. All right, that man told you he'd pay you back on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. You could watch your watch. At 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, by God, he'd be there to pay you. And if he couldn't pay you, he'd be out at 10 o'clock anyway. And he'd tell you, look here, I've had the hard luck, whatever. I can't pay you. Well, that's fine. But nowadays, you loan a son of a bitch $5, you're fucked. I mean, that's just it. How many of them, I mean, this world went to hell in a handbasket. I'm telling it like it is. Now, there's a few people in my life that I trust. When they tell you they'll do something, they will. They owe you money, they'll pay you. But God damn, I can haul what few of them there are in a Volkswagen and it won't be crowded. Yeah. That's 2 dogs out there in the yard. I'd give them a bite of food out of my mouth. And some people I know, I wouldn't even give them a goddamn piss to take a pill with.
Fuck no.
Hell no. I mean, I am popcorn by God Sutton, and that's it. And anybody don't like the way I do, what I do, fuck them, is what I say about it. I mean, you can put that on the tape and short it nationwide. I don't give a goddamn. Had a guy call me the other night from Georgia. Said he'd been down North Wilkesboro. Said he got talking about Popcorn Sutton. And said some guy spoke up and said, we've spilt more liquor in North Wilkesboro than Popcorn Sutton's ever made. By God, they ain't been where I've been, have they? They don't even goddamn know. Well, in the first place, I'm proud of my liquor. Long Carsville over yonder, I've seen them. Over in Tennessee. I've seen them get them a pop made out of galvanized sheet metal. 28 gauge sheet metal. Dig that thing in a bank somewhere and sweeten it in. They wouldn't put nothing but just about 100 pounds of ground up cornmeal in it. Alright, then they'd pour about 25, 30, 40 pounds of wheat bran in it. Hog shorts is what I call it. And about 4 pounds of yeast in it. Yeah, it'll work. It'll make liquor, yeah. But then, once they run that thing, I've seen them temper it. They'd take a big tub there and they'd get their high shots and their backing. They'd mix it like you're supposed to. Get it up there to where it bead. Then reach over here and get about 25 bottles of rubbing alcohol and pour in that shit. I've seen it. I seen it. I thought, oh shit. I can't do that.
Why not?
If I'm gonna kill anybody, it's gonna be with a gun, not like that. Because I'm not a coward to start with. And I figured that was just downgrading myself too good, so I wouldn't never think about doing that.
Well, I mean, why would you take more trouble than you had to make the kind of liquor you make?
Well, they sold their liquor cheap. Mine wasn't cheap. My clients wasn't the average town drunk you see walking down Skid Row. They used to come to me driving Escalade Cadillacs, BMWs, Porsches, Mercedes, and to be honest with you, they're most out of Florida. Alright, you know them people can afford to buy any kind of goddamn liquor they want. They can buy Crown Royal or whatever. No, I don't get it. They want mine.
Did you ever think you might be famous?
In the wrong goddamn way. All my life I've been famous. In the wrong goddamn way.
Are you surprised to be famous now?
I don't give a goddamn how famous I am or whatever. It don't matter to me because I'm about dead anyway, so what I give a shit. I don't care who likes me and who don't. I left home when I was about 14 years old. And since then it went to hell in a wagon load. Holidays, so sad. Like Thanksgiving, like Christmas. I wish they'd abolish the damn time. It brings back so much of my childhood memories. I can't hardly stand it. Tell you a story about my daddy. One time at Christmas, he got this shipping crate that somebody shipped something in. And it had fragile wrote down the side of it. That's how I learned to spell that word, and I'll never forget how to spell it today. He took them slats, and he made me a little wheelbar. sawed a piece off the end of a log and made the wheel out of it. Bored a hole through it. With an old basin bit you bored like that, it wasn't no goddamn electric drill. Then he took them slats and he put a body on that thing. He put two little handles back here out of wood. That's the most precious Christmas gift I ever had in my life. I can see it right now. Yeah. Been there and done that. Now you buy a kid a goddamn AK-47, you don't buy him a wheelbarrow. And you don't tell him shit. You whoop a kid nowadays, your ass will go to jail. Oh, it wasn't done for the law to be like that back when I was coming up. Every goddamn body in the county had been in jail. But this thing's still going. It's been a hell of a life for me. And I don't care if it ends tonight, 'cause I made my peace with the good Lord. And when I die, I'm going where my daddy is. And if my daddy ain't in heaven, there ain't such a damn place. I'll put it that way. I just wish I could live my life over.
Why?
Goddamn if I wouldn't do it bigger and better. That's all I can say. I see my daddy and talk to him and everything in my sleep. That's a hell of a feeling.
Did you work with him, like when you were a kid? Did you have to work, on your land or whatever?
Oh, hell yeah. I sit out back there and hoed damn corn and picked up apples and shit. I done everything. Anything you must do around the house. Bust stove wood for a wood cook stove. Put in the house, pull weeds for the damn hogs. I mean, whatever it was, I was there with it. Old man Jewel Boyd, it was in the 5th grade in school. And I should have had been whipped like a damn dog for it, but I wasn't. I still feel sorry about it. But anyway, old man Jewel, he was in the war in some part of Japan. I can't think where it's at. But anyway, I knowed if all you'd have to do when school was going on was get him to start talking about Japan somewhere or another, and he'd start talking about bombs and all this stuff, and he'd start crying, and stuff like that. And we didn't have to do nothing the damn rest of the day, and I hate I'd done that. But I knowed how to get out of schoolwork. Old man Ed Rathbone, he was very religious, and he'd come there and help Mom and Daddy around the house. And when he'd go eat dinner at the table, he'd sit down right at the end, and I'd sit over there somewhere behind the table. And he'd bow his head down, and he'd go, pss, 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 like that's what I thought he was doing anyway. But one day after dinner was over, Mommy come in there in the kitchen and go wash the dishes, and I was behind the table, and I was back there playing Ed. I was back there going, pss, pss, pss. And she jerked me out of there and whooped the living shit out of me. She said, "You don't mock a good Lord," and Mommy is very strict about that. And she beat the hell out of me, and I never did preach no more. Up there they're having one of these holiness prayer meetings at this place, and the road went way up here, and the old house was straight down in the hole. You could stand up there and toss a rock down the top of the old chimney made out of mud and rocks. And they was in there hollering and going on, however how they do it. And we got a pack of them little old 10-cent firecrackers. We got to hold them some way. There's 3 of us. And I went down to this end and watched to see wasn't nobody looking. This other boy went up there to the other end. And this other boy, he walked over and tossed them down that chimney. And them firecrackers went down and hit that fire. They had a fire in the fireplace. It blowed fire coals all over that house. You talk about breaking up a prayer meeting, it did. If they'd have caught us, they'd have put us in jail. We run off. About my A model, that's how come I've got the A model I've got today. I learned to drive on one just like I own today. My uncle let me learn to drive it when I was just, I guess, 9 years old or something. It was a 31A model, and he let me drive it from out the back of the house out to the main gravel road and then back. And then later on, when he seen I could handle it going out that driveway from my house to the roadway, he let me turn up the main road with it, a gravel road that is. And used to be he'd haul wood in that old A model. He'd take the back seat out and he'd pack wood from the floor to the ceiling, plumb to the front seats. And he'd come off a place called the Purchase on top of Hemp Hill. And them old A models, they got mechanical brakes on them, and the brakes on his was wore out. You could hear the metal scraping metal to metal. But he'd come off right in the old car and he'd cut the switch off, and that'd make it hold back more coming off that mountain. And then one time about the A model, as a revenue officer went up there and they was going to raid the still on the Purchase, and their car wouldn't go in there, but the old A model would, and they stopped there and asked her to borrow my uncle's A model, and she done some quick thinking. She knowed who was making liquor up there, and she didn't want them caught anyway, so she told him, said, no, you can't borrow the A model. Said, my husband's gone to work, and said he's got the keys in his pocket, which the keys was never in his pocket. They always hung on a nail in the house, and I knowed where they was. I could get them anytime I wanted them. But she wouldn't let him have that A model. I've seen Maggie Valley when there wasn't nothing but a post office and a couple of stores, and not many motels. Of course, now it's covered up with motels. They didn't have nothing in the valley for an attraction for tourists. First attraction in the valley I remember was old man Ted Sutton. He'd get out there on a wooden box he made and pick an old banjo and sing, and here's one of the first tourist attractions there was around here.
He called himself Maggie's old man.
Yeah, Maggie's old man. I have had people tell me that I look kind of like him. Well, it used to be if you wanted to go out here and go hunting, you could go over on that ridge or this ridge or anywhere you want to. Now you don't go on no damn ridge. I've traveled around quite a bit down in the flatlands and stuff. You ain't got no hills and hollers to hide you from nothing like you have around here in these mountains. I wouldn't stay nowhere else. I've been out west and everywhere. I wouldn't give a quarter acre for it out there. I'd rather be somewhere around Maggie Valley. Up at the store last summer, there's this old woman come in there, and I had one of them stills set up out front there. And she'd already got on what little few nerves I've got anyway. And she come out there and pointed at that still. She said, you know you're going to go to hell for making this old liquor? I said, well, I hope I don't. But I said, if I do, I won't need no damn fire, and I'll be sure and save you a seat. Oh, yeah, when I went to church, once a month I'd drop a $100 bill in a collection plate, and I know damn well they knowed I didn't get it selling taters. You can take a jar of liquor, good liquor that is, and you can get favors done with it that you couldn't buy for a damn $100 bill. I mean, it'll stand out where money won't.
What kind of stuff have you traded liquor for?
Just about every goddamn thing imaginable. Cars, everything. Well, they make a thing called acidity. It used to come in a little block called acidity gum. They don't make a gum no more. They make it in a liquid form. It comes in a little tiny bottle, and you pour that liquid in a bottle and fill it up with moonshine liquor and let it mix up and dissolve real good. And it's used for stomach medicine. If your stomach's hurting real bad, you can take you like a tablespoonful of that and it'll stop instantly. That used to be all the stomach medicine people had back years ago. And then you can take pokeberries and put them in moonshine liquor, and it's good for arthritis or rheumatism. And, well, if you drink enough of it, you won't give a damn if you got it anyway, so. But anyway, camphor, it's a white block of stuff. You drop it in a bottle and pour moonshine in on it and dissolve it. And it's good like if you got achy muscles or joints or whatever, you rub it on there and it helps the pain. And if you got the headache, you can put it and sniff it up your nose and rub it across the top of your head, and it'll sure quieten the headache down. Oh yeah, about the cough syrup. It's made out of honey, horehound candy, and lemon juice, all mixed together, and let it dissolve and shake it up real good. And if you got a real bad cough, you can take a swallow of that and it'll either slow it down or stop at one. But liquor, used to be, if it wasn't for liquor, that's the main ingredient in any medicine, liquor is. I mean alcohol. Back a long time ago, I was a little old kid. The old man's dead now. His name was old man Avery Silvers. He was a master of liquor. I've been told that nobody could compare to him. And I guess that's right.
That's on the creek, what?
On Hemphill. Old man Avery Silvers. They said he could make liquor super than nobody. I mean, nobody could beat him. One time, when I was a little old kid, had a little old one-lane gravel road coming down by the house. Mud and gravel. Avery went back there on the mountain somewhere, and he made him a run, which wasn't much. Probably 3 or 4 jars. All they had over on Hemphill, a little 35-gallon pot. If they had one of them, they had a big one, you know, had a big. Poor Avery come walking down that road, had his sack on his back, an old tow sack. Had liquor in it. He'd run it that day and carrying her home. And he'd got into it too much. He fell right there in front of my daddy's house, in the middle of the road at the mailbox. He fell backwards, and when he did, he busted a jar of his liquor. Boy, you could hear him cuss 40 miles away. But they said he was the best that's ever been. I don't know. I mean, it's a never-ending job. I mean, you don't no more than get done with one thing. Say you run it. All right, then you got to temper it. Then you got to try to sell it. Then you got to turn around and take the money and buy your sugar and stuff back. It's just a round and round thing. One job right after another. It never ends. You know, people grows pot nowadays. It's not as hard to do as make liquor, and they make a lot more money out of it. But they got them airplanes and stuff that flies and hunts that pot. And you got to have a damn good location, or they'll fly over and spot your still just right off. I mean, it stands out like a sore thumb. That copper will shine. You can see it when the sun shines on it for a half a mile. Yeah, I've walked miles and miles hunting for water. You got to have water as the first thing. But I've walked many miles hunting for a little old spring or a branch where I could pipe water off of it out into the woods somewhere, away from a creek. Because if anybody's going to hunt for a still, they'll walk a branch looking for it. And sometimes you can find a spring back on one of these mountains that comes up like under a big rock up here, and it'll go about 30 feet or something, it'll sink back in the ground, you never see it no more. Now that's an ideal place when you can find one of them, because not many people would even think about water being on a ridge like that up on a mountain, you know. If you can't get the proper equipment, you don't need to be fooling with it. You take making liquor on these old sheet metal stills, hell, that liable to kill somebody. But if you can't get the right equipment and use the right ingredients and not try to dope it up with shit like rubbing alcohol and beating oil and stuff like that, I don't believe in doing that either. But if you can't get a copper still or stainless steel, why, to stay out of the business, because you don't need it no way. It costs you money to graduate, anything you do. I kept saving my pennies. Went from wood to pressurized gas. Yeah. You put that gas in a damn tank, whatever size it might be, it don't matter according to what kind of operation you got. As I graduated along, I got bigger. The last one I fooled with, the goddamn gas tank out 60 gallons. And to make one run, it took every damn bit of it. And sometimes you'd have to fill it up again before the run was over. I've sweated blood for what little shit I've got, and I ain't got nothing to show for it, no way. Broke down, wore out, can't do nothing.
Do you think people always make moonshine?
Why, they'll make it as long as time lasted and as long as water runs downhill. Somebody will. I won't, 'cause I'm about dead. Well, I guess that's it.